Opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Mayor Ross Kentner of Meaford, and we were just saying before we started the show, no, it's not. This isn't. Let's just say this isn't a radio show on another station that Ross is well acquainted with. It's Politically Speaking. So, Ross, welcome. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you again. These dates roll around fairly frequently. So thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you what's on our mind.
Well, it's a really interesting time these days because there's all kinds of news happening in all of our municipalities in the Rogers area. But as we're coming off a very successful, I presume, event, your volunteer appreciation event in Meaford happened very recently.
It happened last night, and it was a really gala affair. It was in the galleries at Meaford Hall, which is a lovely venue, and it was catered by the Dam Pub, and it was just really an enjoyable evening. Meaford has so many volunteers. It's just incredible. And I also had the extreme pleasure of presenting the 2024 Community Builder Award. And how that works is nominations come from our residents who recognize the value of our volunteer corps. And then council looks at all of the nominations and has the difficult chore of making a selection because there are so many wonderful volunteers. But anyway, this year's winner is Mary Solomon, and she plays an important role in our long-standing scarecrow invasion, but also our relatively new Christmas on the Bay European-style market. And something you may not be aware of, David, but I'm happy to share, because I don't think it's a well-known fact, that Meaford is the only one of the 9 first-tier municipalities in Grey to have its own independent accessibility committee. And I can tell you that her service on that committee and her advocacy for those with disabilities has made Meaford a much more welcoming community. And speaking of awards, what can you tell me right under your nose there?
Well, speaking of awards, Owen Sound had its volunteer recognition event very recently, and our own Mark Perry, who is the wizard behind all the magic here. And I should tell you, Ross, Mark has left you and me alone. He checked out.
He's there.
He's not there. He had to cover and attend another management meeting, so he's not there. So I can talk all about him.
Well, he does not like to be in the spotlight. I know that.
He doesn't. But I think the other thing is that he's the guy who makes the magic happen for Rogers TV here. He's a critical volunteer in the community and encourages volunteers. But this had nothing to do with Rogers. This was for his volunteer work in Owen Sound Soccer, of which he is a very, very long supporter, and it's a well-deserved award. Mark has been a part of this community since the 1980s. So,
I know. He made an indelible impression on our son, who co-opted at Rogers, as many fine young people do, and it's a great spot for kids to find themselves and find new skills. But I want to come back to Mark. When I think of him in the sports world, I think of bowling, because he's been so important to bowling for kids. So I didn't know about the soccer part. And anyway, congratulations, Mark. Well-deserved award.
Absolutely. And I should say that part of his work is to nurture volunteers as well. because Rogers is, with the exception of 2 paid staff, entirely volunteer. And so I'm a volunteer, 20 years. But there are all of the on-air staff, all our on-air personalities, and especially our technical people are all volunteers. And it's a great place for our young people to learn really cool skills with some of the best equipment around. So volunteers matter.
We have a motherload of talent in the area, and I'll just give you one example I know about. I'm sure that the wonderful minister who writes in the Sun-Times is not on the payroll, but is in fact a volunteer. And
right.
I always enjoy reading your very, very thoughtful articles in the Sun-Times. So,
well, thank you. Fortunately, because I'm a volunteer, I don't have to hide that from Rogers or anybody else. So, but let's move on, Roger. Let's move on, Ross, and talk about the flip side of volunteer appreciation, and that is volunteer recruitment. And you've got a big event coming up. Actually, by the time this airs, it'll be finished. But I know that there are always organizations that are looking for volunteers.
There are, and we have a volunteer fair. We've been going to do this for a long time, and one thing and another has postponed it. And it's taking place at the library, which has become such an enormous hub of activity in downtown Meaford as a result of just all the things they have to offer there. And I can't tell you, I'm sort of digressing, but one of the things I'm so excited about, almost as soon as they opened the doors of the library, you could see downtown Meaford coming to life. It has just energized it so much. The number of people in there, I believe they have more than doubled what was already an outstanding, enrollment in the library. But anyway, this event, which is probably over by the time this hits the airways, is an example anyway of how important volunteers are to us. And if I can segue here, just thinking about stepping up to serve, we received as a council more than 70 applications from citizens to serve on our advisory committees. That's a huge number. And I don't have to, tell you about just, the kind of talent that is out there residing in our communities. And I'm talking about people, who have such worldly experience and are more than willing to bring that, to our aid in the various things which councils organize advisory committees for. And we've actually expanded our list of advisory committees to incorporate some things and really to shore up the pillars of our strategic priorities and plans. So anyway, more than 70, it's an all-time record, and it assures us that we are going to get quality advice going forward on these advisory committees. And probably the most gratifying, we filled 9 seats on our Pump Storage Advisory Committee with citizens who are both representatives of Save Georgian Bay, representatives of business in the community, representative of people with engineering experience, for example, which is very, very important to this project, and youth as well. So, and not only that, these people are committed to being open-minded, to be willing to hear views that differ from their own, and to work together collaboratively to try and help our community probe this mega project and take a deep dive into the questions for which answers are needed. And as a council, we're just so appreciative of the support we've received in this.
Sure. Well, I know that the whole pumped storage project is a huge regional issue, but I want to come back to that because I want to stick with the volunteering for the moment, because you've got a very interesting volunteer opportunity, which is it kind of rolled out, and it's interesting because of it's concerning the Main Street Meaford organization, and because that organization itself is in transition. And can you tell us the history of Main Street Meaford? What's the background story?
Well, I'm really not an expert on it, but some members of staff are. But it's been going for quite a while. It began in the States. It spread to Canada. It's being very, very successful. And it is built on a number of pillars. And it's sort of ideally suited to a town like Meaford, which has an outstanding architectural heritage in the downtown core. And it's about how you can preserve that, how you can enhance it, how you can make your downtown more walkable and livable, and then how you can promote and sustain events and so on to make the downtown everything that it has the potential to be. So and I will say this because I was, as a manager in Owen Sound, I was part of the BIA there. And I know that there was definitely a feeling that, you were getting a surcharge on your taxes, and for that you got a candy cane hanging from your lamppost in the winter, and you had a bag of, flowers that hung on it in the summer. Essentially, I don't like to use the term, but we euthanized our BIA because there was not a lot of excitement, enthusiasm, much happening. And I say that with all deference to the people who soldiered on and tried to keep that thing going, because I know as a member of the Owen Sound BIA just how hard that was, and how hard it was to get a corporal's guard to do anything in concert with each other. And you have problems in downtowns such as uniform hours or the lack thereof, and how can you engage people who have locked their doors for the weekend in a sidewalk sale? You know what I'm saying, or things of that nature. So, and the BIA was singularly unsuited for bringing people together to get enthusiastic about anything. And although I will say in Meaford, our BIA did do a number of important things for us. I don't think the Santa Claus Parade, for example, would ever have been the success it was and continues to be without their help. It fell apart a little bit at the end last year because they weren't there, So I understand that.
Ross, I have to say that as the commentator for Rogers TV on the Santa Claus Parade at Meaford, it didn't fall apart. It was a great, and it still is, a great small town Santa Claus Parade with lots of local participation. And
Agreed. What fell apart?
It's a bit chaotic.
What fell apart was that we were supposed to have the Christmas tree lighting immediately after, and nobody knew where the plug was.
I heard about that. I heard the panic as we were packing up, but
I was panicking. Anyway, so that's the story on that. And none of these things are born necessarily easily, but a lot of credit to the volunteers in Meaford and the downtown area. And we have I think they're called the Wave, but we have a group of ladies, and you understand that most of the businesses on the main street are owned and operated by women. Very, very capable women, and we are certainly lucky to have the core that we have. And they have done a number of interesting things, and so we have sort of roped them into this, as well as our 150th anniversary and birthday party, and we're getting a lot of help to really, like, I'm seeing a vitality in downtown Meaford that hasn't been there really in decades, and it is really starting to happen. And I want to tell you, if I can now, about a really interesting, and this is the world unfolding just the way you hope it would be. Much to our surprise on council, we had a report we knew nothing about, and if I can just enthuse a little bit here, to support economic and cultural revitalization efforts in downtown Meaford and to celebrate Meaford's 150th, staff submitted an application to the Canadian Urban Institute for their grant program funded by the Federal Economic Development Agency. The grant proposal combines a number of placemaking initiatives that build upon other municipal work programs and projects that are themselves focused on improving the livability and success of downtown Meaford. If the grant is awarded, the package of projects it funds will help to make downtown more beautiful and accessible for all. And the items that are included here is painting some crossings with artwork, painting the barriers for the restaurant patios so they're much more attractive, making beach access from McCarroll Park to the beach on Bayfield Street, making slowing traffic and making that a safer crossing for children who are constantly going from the water park to the Georgian Bay and back and forth on a busy road. Also, bike racks. We are being discovered by bikers, but honestly, we don't have any infrastructure to support them. And bike racks, which is another big thing, and also helping make businesses more accessible from the public sidewalks. And that last item has a youth component to it. The high school kids that are learning these skills are going to be building ramps and installing them to improve access to some of the stores that have accessibility issues. And staff have all of these things taken together. It may not sound like much, but it's $192,000 that they have applied for. And the good news is this is a $15 million slush fund. So I think there's a good chance that we will get this. But a lot of the work dovetails with some of Council's strategic priorities for this term, including greening Market Square and enhancing the public realm. And so this initiative was led by our Director of Development Services, Rob Voigt, who has also been instrumental in bringing forward the downtown or the Main Street, program. And how can you not be enthusiastic when totally unbeknownst to council, we get a big initiative like this from, and not only that, I have been whispered in my ear that if we don't get the grant, most of these things we can do ourselves. Because a lot of artists are supporting this idea, local artists. That's another group of people who give, and so great. Yeah, to me, one of the reasons why I ran for this office was because I heard can't do too much, too many times. I'm starting to hear we can do, and it just resonates so greatly, So I can't put enough praise on our staff, and I want to, if I can, mention we are on our search for a new CAO. We are this is drawing to a close. Hopefully there will be no more bumps in the road. We've had a few, but that goes with the territory. However, I wanted to say that we would not be where we are if it were not for our interim CAO, Matt Smith, who stepped up to the plate when he already had numerous files on his shoulders, the jobs over and above being the clerk. Pardon me. But he has both embraced our priorities and our timeline. So we have not really lost any traction over the last 8 or 9 months that we've been in this search. And that's such an advantage. So I just want to heap a little praise on him for and I know all council feels the same way. He's been extremely helpful, and we really appreciate it.
Well, it's interesting you say that you're coming to the end of the process. I know that when I have spoken to others, mayors on this show, and I've seen over this last 4 or 5 years a number of changes in the CAO and office holder, and been having conversations with mayors. And your timeline is probably pretty average. 8, 9, 10 months. It's people don't realize that this is a very responsible position with very specific qualifications. You can't hire someone off the street to be a CAO. They have to have certain training. And hey, you guys, Meaford's done well. And if you're close, I look forward maybe in our next interview to either meeting or hearing the announcement. So that's great. That's great. But we shall see what we shall see. It's a fascinating thing to see and to observe, especially over a period of time. Now, the one thing, just before we leave Main Street Meaford, one of the things I wanted to pick up on was that the first year had a fairly heavy staff component as a part of the group itself. Like staff turned the start key on this. It looks like, from what I've been reading, and now they're stepping back. So now it's the community and volunteers that can carry Main Street Meaford forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so, for sure.
So how would a person volunteer? Do they just contact the municipal office, or what's
yes, or they could do that, or they could talk directly to the there is I believe a few key players who are actually business people who are working behind the scenes to make this transition.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, a strong business community makes a great community. So we'll see what happens. Great stuff.
Yes.
Well, I look forward to the next Santa Claus parade in Meaford.
Well, you know what? It is one of our, outstanding events. And when all this work with volunteers in the last, this is National Volunteer Week anyway, it has really brought home just how important this whole area is. And anyway, Meaford has benefited so much and will continue to. And I think that it's important to understand that there really not much important happens without volunteers. I mean, I when I was speaking to the room last night, I said, every one of you is a volunteer, and whether you work in the hospital or whether you work, in the nursing home, or whether you help at the food bank, or whatever it is, and there are so many different things. The Santa Claus parade, the 150th right now, and I am so pleased. Nobody thinks about sesquicentennials. When Harley Greenfield and I brought this up, both of us on the Meaford Heritage Committee at the time, when we brought it up, people said, what? Sesquicentennial. Well, what is that? Well, it's 150th birthday, your 150th birthday, and it's a great occasion. And what really has made me feel so good is that initially, as I say, people didn't know what it was, and now we have a lot of people working very, very hard to make this, the biggest event, an event of the decade. They're really, really so enthusiastic. We have got wonderful, wonderful swag. And I think I rang my bell there on the last program. I should have brought it today, but there's some great swag, and everybody, I'm seeing more and more of it on the street. Everybody loves it, and yeah, it's going to be a great year.
So the sesquicentennial obviously has kicked off, and you're into it. There'll be lots of announcements that'll be made in the next over the next few months, especially in the summer, I'm presuming.
Yeah. June is a very big month for sure, and there are lots of things. Now, you mentioned when we were just chatting before the program about our pavilion at the harbor, and as a matter of fact, yesterday I was checking it out because I had questions, people who have rented it and wanted to know, is it going to be ready on time? And actually, there was a crew on the job when I went by. So I think it just has been in place for many years. It was built by Russ Bumstead, a great craftsman and Rotarian, and volunteer. And he pretty much single-handedly built it, and he built it extremely well. But it has reached a point where some of the upright supports needed to be replaced, and that's being taken care of. And I do believe the pavilion will be available for all the usual events that we have at the harbor during the summer.
Now, will that work be funded by the municipality, or are there contributions from the community?
I think this is more a maintenance thing. It's something that although we didn't put it there initially, we certainly try to make sure it's being an asset that's being kept up properly. And I think that it's one of those things that probably may not show up in the budget, but gets done. You know what I'm saying? That there are. It's a little bit like that hint that maybe even if we don't get the grant, we'll probably do some of these things anyway. You know.
So it's part of what is called discretionary funding.
I would, you know, I hesitate to endorse that, but I think it's true. I mean, I don't think you can account for every dime in the budget, and nor is it appropriate that things would be let go or not done. And I will say that on Monday's council meeting, we found some extra money for decorating downtown Meaford for the sesquicentennial. And I think that some of the members of council who are, you know, very, very conservative in their spending were sold on the fact that we would bring these containers out and use them in the winter as well as in the summer, and we would get many, many years of good service out of them and compete a little more effectively with some of our near neighbors. And I'm not mentioning any names, but there was some talk about a community to our west that has the most beautiful bridge flowers for many, many miles. And to say nothing of, you know, trying to compete with Collingwood or Town of Blue Mountain.
Exactly. But at the same time, a little healthy competition makes people feel good about their home community. And promotes a sense of appreciation from those who are visiting. And, you know, we don't, let's not forget, we are all tourist communities. We have a lot of visitors that pass through from the end of May to October. And winter as well.
Yeah, we are a four-season tourist area. Why are our parks closed in the winter? You know, and I've got a long way to go to get to where I think we need to be on some of these things, but I do feel that all this is going in the right direction. Yeah. Sure.
Well, it's an absolutely fascinating conversation, because this at the core, we started out with volunteerism, but we're looking at civic pride, we're looking at civic improvement, we're looking at business development, and on and on and on. It's all interrelated.
Can I add this? As well, I intended to mention, and it slipped my mind, but as well as you know, all the volunteer activities, the sesquicentennial, for example, is the beneficiary of some very, very generous sponsorships. Very generous. A lot of businesses that are not front of mind necessarily. You know what I mean? That they don't have billboards, and you don't hear them on the radio or see them in the newspaper, and yet they step up for something like this and make some of these things possible. And we have some great sponsors for the 150th, and really appreciate and I should have the next meeting I will have a list of those and let you hear them, because they are really, really, without them, you couldn't do all that we do.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that, Ross, because I think in every community there are a variety of sponsors, sometimes community-minded businesses who just do it because they do it, not because they seek any recognition for it, because they just want to support and do something good for their community. So that's good to hear that you've got that. And yes, I will expect that list.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I will expect that list. All right. Now, the voice in my ear is telling me we got to take a break. So let's take one. And Ross, you and I will be right back. I'm David Shearman, and this is Politically Speaking.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Well, mostly my experience at Rogers has been recording a lot of the Bayshore Broadcasting hockey games with the Attack. I enjoyed doing it mostly because it involves a lot of work with cameras, which I was really interested in. And it was great to see how the production goes about, and I enjoy doing it whenever I can. Well, I got involved originally with Rogers volunteering when I first applied here to be in a co-op, and I did it for a while, and I volunteered on the side as well as taking a co-op at Rogers. But in addition to that, after that, I started becoming a more regular volunteer because I continued to enjoy it, and I just liked doing it, honestly. It was nice, it was fun. I really get along with everybody here at the station. I'd say for the people who would like to volunteer at Rogers, it is an extremely great work environment. The people at the station are very nice, and you learn a lot along the way.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of Meaford. Oh, I love that alliteration. Ross, good to have you back.
Thank you.
Now, the first part of the show, you alluded to some things around the TC Energy pump storage project, and I know that is a very hot topic across this end of Grey County because it's Town of Blue Mountains has started to weigh in on it. Owen Sound has weighed in on it, and I know that it has been a very hot button issue in Meaford. So what is the latest that you can share with us?
Okay, well, I think that probably the most important is our what we call our PSAC, all these acronyms, but our Pump Storage Advisory Committee. That is something that TC Energy sort of wanted. We're not terribly comfortable with the way we were doing this, but we know that we have to. The biggest need right now is more information. There are a lot of ideas about potential problems, dangers, concerns for sure. We need answers to those questions, and we wanted a local committee that would delve into them and find the answers and report back to council. And I explained how that has now been set up, and I believe their first meeting will be, I think it's May 9th, and I'm sure it's going to be followed with great interest by the community, both the local community and now the wider community that is only just now starting to take an interest in this, because the idea has been around and it's been gaining momentum as a mega project by TCE for really 4 years or so now here or longer in Meaford, but it is just beginning to be recognized, and people are taking some very strong views. I believe that first of all, I should tell you that I was not in favor of this originally, and I did intervene and wrote a letter to DND, the Department of National Defense, arguing that it shouldn't be allowed to take place. But many people did that, and it had no difference or no influence. It was approved to be situated on the range if it is to happen. But and I will say too that TCE got off to a rocky start with I just think what I would call an approach that really was not was a bit tone deaf, not really tuned in to, and especially the community of Meaford. People are very, very engaged. They either know what's going on or they want to know, and they're determined to evaluate every important thing and come to their own conclusion. So this committee is going to be very important to this. And so now we've reached a stage where we actually had a closed meeting, I want to say 2 weeks ago about that. And we had 12 people behind closed doors. For example, representatives of Strategy Corps, they're going to be orchestrating a number of pieces that lead up to the negotiation of a community benefits agreement, if we come to that point. Ainley Corps, who will peer review the environmental studies on our behalf. Members of our internal working group, because we've had to start working on this, because you know what, if it doesn't come, it doesn't come. If it does come, we have to be ready. We cannot ignore it. We cannot be unprepared. And I will tell you that our council is quite a brilliant individual who has really helped me understand the importance of being proactive in this process, so that we actually can be in the strong position that we need to be as the host of a significant project of this nature.
Well, Ross, let me ask you a couple of questions here. It was a closed meeting, and in municipal government in Ontario, there are only two types of meeting: open and closed. Can you explain why it was a closed meeting?
Yes, because we were receiving advice from our legal counsel, as well as other consultants, privileged information, and I think we have every right to do that behind closed doors. But I want to tell you something about Ross Kentner as a mayor, if I may, and that is that before we closed the doors, I had the camera pan the room, and we introduced all the people who were participating in the meeting and identified them for their roles. And I think that, in my mind, is something that it's just a small thing, but that I feel is a difference. I want people to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so we're in a really, really interesting and somewhat confusing stage of this project right now. In a sense, things are in limbo, because the provincial government is waiting on certain things to transpire before they move forward. And I know that TCE is working behind the scenes to ensure that, the province gets all the information and things that it needs. But to come right down to cases, you've heard about this Class 3 financial estimate. Have you heard about that?
No, please say more.
Okay, so basically, like TCE, as I understand it, is at a point where they feel they have invested so many millions here that they do not want to proceed until they have the go-ahead from the province. And the province doesn't want to go ahead without understanding exactly what the cost of this project is. And believe it or not, the cost of estimating the cost of the project is $250 million.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, why would you spend $250 million to find out how much something is going to cost? Well, it is a very, very costly project, and nobody can proceed without really fine-tuning and knowing, what the answer to that question is. So getting that money from the senior governments, first of all, the province cannot afford the $250 million, and so an approach is being made to the federal government for the other half. I think there are some imperatives. I know that the federal government hasn't got money to throw around anymore, and certainly, what they had left, they spent in the budget yesterday. But I think that there are some imperatives here, and I just suggest to you the overwhelming one is that by the year 2050, we are going to need as much electric power as we had provided for since the beginning of the use of hydroelectric power in Ontario. So 2050 is coming. It's not that far away. And it's going to take more nuclear, and it's going to take any number of additional projects. And pump storage, which many people argue is not a suitable solution, is viewed by some as being part of the solution at any rate. And I can't get into trying to explain what it does, but it's essentially, to be able to store energy and especially from the Bruce nuclear site, you can't shut that down at night when demand goes down. And so that energy is lost, but it can be stored overnight and then released through the pump storage project. That's the long and the short of it. And maybe there are better alternatives and certainly less costly ones. But so this is where things are at. And what I do know is there's it's a fairly short time frame for reaching these decisions. And so it will not be, I don't think, past September before there's some kind of indication of whether or not this will happen. And all I'm saying is that we need to be ready. We've already invested a lot of staff time in getting prepared, and there is so much that needs to be done. So that's I think that, and I just want to add, whether or not it happens, it's my goal as a mayor to bring Meaford into what we call the clean energy frontier, which involves Huron County, Bruce County, and Grey County. And I think that Meaford needs to be part of that. I think, for example, for the first time since I've been in this part of the world, which is most of my life, I see the potential for Owen Sound to have more jobs. And I think those jobs are going to be very closely tied to the nuclear industry. Isotopes, hydrogen is another possibility, and they've got a player there now. And there are so many things that I think that will be the future jobs. And I think that there's every reason in the world that Meaford should share in that and be part of it. And I'm finding that by being a willing host, we are attracting interest from those supply industries to nuclear and the other forms of energy. We've actually, also approved a battery project, which is really on our western border with Owen Sound. And I'm not sure that it is like the pump storage. Some people say it is environmentally unsuitable, and like the pump storage, some people are afraid that once you get a battery fire, and I'm talking a very large battery, it's very hard to put out. So in other words, pressure on the city of Owen Sound, on the Intertownship Fire Department, things like that, as well as our fire department. So anyway, these are complex issues, and all I am trying to do and our council is trying to do is understand them better, help the community understand them better, and be ready for whatever comes.
Thank you, Ross. One of the things that was really made clear in the presentation to Owen Sound is that there is a deep partner in the whole project right now, and that is Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. And they do have absolute veto power over this. If they do say, nope, not happening, it's not happening. And so has this conversation been raised in Meaford as well?
Absolutely. And this is, again, one of the reasons that I personally am willing to support this project if it moves forward, because the Indigenous component is it's unequivocal. They will be equity holders in the project, And this will mean jobs for the people that I remind you were displaced from their homes in Owen Sound and moved north on the peninsula. In terms of time, certainly in terms of geological time, it was like that a few seconds ago. So, and I believe we're getting challenged right at the moment with respect to our land acknowledgement. And we need to resolve that. If we're wrong, we're wrong. We'll make some adjustments. But from where I stand, the only Indigenous people that we really rub shoulders with, and who, if we are serious about truth and reconciliation, these are the people we will interact with, are Silan, are the two communities on the Lake Huron shore and on the shore of Georgian Bay. And this project, the chiefs have assured people in a documentary they produced that if you can trust anybody to protect our waters, you can trust them, and I believe that. But I know that they have taken a good hard look at this, and I know they realize that they stand to, it would be a game changer in terms of the future of people living on our local reserves. And I think that, and it wouldn't automatically do it, that there would be many things needed to happen for people to get the advantages that they should have from it. But I think that I see it as a really important development in our own community, a chance to actually play a part in truth and reconciliation. And I want to stress too, I think among the imperatives that I see, I think the federal government, that might be the number one issue for them, is that the opportunity for the Indigenous community.
Sure. And you referred to questions around your municipal land acknowledgement, which is something that is common to all of our municipalities now. Can you just very briefly explain it? Was it just simply something that the people were asking questions about?
I think it's we have an individual, and I appreciate his interest, and we want to be right questioning, and it revolves around the treaties. So I think we'll just try and get that sorted out. And I mean, we were due to revise and update our acknowledgement anyway, because it can become perfunctory and something that it just and that's not the way we want it to be. We want it to be meaningful, and I must say how much I've enjoyed the limited contact I have had with the people from Son. It warmed my heart. I was at a function here, TCE on last Friday, held an event in Owen Sound where they invited contractors to come and get a briefing on how they intend to deal with local labor and local suppliers, and how they want to. And again, one of the imperatives, I think, for both senior governments is, and largely for the provincial government at this time, is the fact that they know that the vast majority of the investment for this project will be sourced locally. You don't have to order, windmill fins from China. You know what I'm saying? Everything that is needed for this project can be sourced pretty much from Ontario and from our own area. And we want, one of the things why we're trying to be ready is because there are people who want good employment opportunities in Meaford, and certainly many of our contractors will get those opportunities if we're ready to participate in this.
Well, this is an ongoing issue that we will certainly be talking about in future interviews. I am absolutely sure, Ross. It's a big one. It's engaging, and it's not going to be resolved quickly. My suspicion is that it will be our children and grandchildren who will be the beneficiaries of these projects and these decisions, because that's how long it's going to take to come to fruition, which, by the way, isn't all that long.
No, no. I believe that 2035 is the year, sort of the target year for being in production. So that's 10 years. And I think that is a reasonable, I think, goal. And if it, we will certainly be in need of the energy, surplus energy, if it actually, succeeds in producing that by that time. Yes.
Well, 10 years from now, I don't think I'll be here behind the camera at Rogers, and somehow I don't think you'll have run for that many times for mayor.
No, no. I don't think that. I came into this position at a time when I only have a short opportunity to make a contribution, and I'm trying my best to make it the best contribution that it can be.
Sure. Well, we've got a few minutes left, not much, but I did want to note that there is a change as of the 1st of April or thereabouts in the Police Services Act, and there is a new Grey Bruce OPP detachment board, which is, those of us who are in urban areas that have our own policing service. And every municipality has also had a police services board, but this is a Grey Bruce wide body to govern the OPP.
Yes, it is. It has moved at about the same speed as pump storage.
Okay.
It has taken a long time to do this, but I will tell you that Tony Bell, who is our well-known member of our council and well-known for his role in the Canadian Legion and various other organizations. He is our sort of delegate on behalf of Meaford, and he tells me that he has some intensive training coming up. He'll have as many meetings as the mayor, but it will be good. It'll be good training, and it will equip the people to do a good job of this important oversight of the OPP.
Sure, and to be clear, it's only for OPP contracted police services, because each of the other municipalities, West Grey, Hanover, Owen Sound, have their own police services boards.
Correct. And Meaford really didn't have a board like that, but I think that this is new for us, and we're looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things that sort of, oh yeah, okay.
Can I mention something quickly?
Sure. We got about 5 minutes left.
Okay. Well, then, if I can, I'd just like to tell you a couple of things, and I don't have really complete information here, but one of the things that excites me is that Meaford, of course, is more than Meaford. It's St. Vincent Township, the former St. Vincent. It's the former Sydenham Township, and we have these wonderful halls. And I just want to tell you that at Bogner Community Center, one of them on April 28th from 2 to 5, there's the Ridge River Ramblers are having a big jamboree, and it sounds like a fantastic event. And I just want to give a little shout out that I think that doors open at 1:30, and it is advance tickets $20, $25 at the door, and you can get tickets at Bayshore Country Feeds in Owen Sound, or Bogner tickets.bognercc@gmail.com. Anyway, I'm sure if you know about it, you'll look around and get some information on it. And also, I can't find my notes, but I know that the Woodford Hall, the curtain will go up again on the stage there as the local players are putting on a David Foster play. And it's, as everybody knows, they are a hoot, and that's coming up this month as well.
Yes, that I did notice that. So that these, when we think of communities, let's be honest, all of our municipalities are still communities of communities.
Yes.
And each of them has their own unique brand, their own unique traditions and cultures. And they have these community halls that we have. Although I'm sure your CAO laments the cost, and I have heard not your CAO, but I have heard CAOs tell me we got way too many arenas, we got way too many community halls, we can't afford another one, and I'm saying, hey, that's community.
That's right. And these halls are it's the same. Riverside is back having Sunday breakfasts, and there was just one this past week. And all these things are really, they bring your community to life. And we're very, very fortunate. And they also reflect the rural community to us so well, because we're not all of us out in the roads or, in the farming areas that much. But when you go to the halls, that's where everybody congregates, and it's good.
Did I see also there's a Bogner beef barbecue going on very shortly?
I can't tell you that for sure, but I know that our agricultural society, Meaford and St. Vincent Agricultural Society, has a barbecue coming up, and I should have details on that because I never know when these are running. I just usually try to promote events this way, but I just want people to know there's a lot going on, and it's easy to tap into it. And I would say the whole back page of the Meaford Independent is devoted to events. You can't go wrong. Pick up a Meaford Independent.
And Facebook. I noticed that many of these events show up on Facebook links as people share them around, and great opportunity for people to keep informed and to build community. Because, boy, we're I was just reflecting recently, we're 3 years post-COVID. And
I wish more organizations, including municipalities, would take note of that.
Yeah,
I believe there's too much working from home at this point in time. I think that when you can't get a large, group of people who are supposed to be working together as a team ever in the same place at the same time, you don't really get the teamwork that you need.
Well, the funny part is that I'm working down in Durham right now, and one of the community groups said, "Oh, well, let's throw a supper." Bang! The tickets were sold out. People just and it was these the things we used to do, which we can do now. Yeah. So anyway, Mark is telling me, thank you, Mark. He has forgiven me for announcing his award, but that's okay. We are time's up, Ross. So I have to say thank you for all that you've done.
Next time. Thank you.
You betcha. Next time. And friends, thank you for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Join us on the next episode of Grey County Life. We'll be learning more about the Art of Caring Gala.
Also, Amy McConaughey will be joining us from Grey Bruce Hospice to talk about the upcoming Hike for Hospice fundraiser. And Renee will be here from the Owen Sound Animal Shelter.
Everyone wants to know about everything Blue Jays.
Blair and Barker know what's up.
Over under an 86.5 wins.
I'm going to go over.
What's the story on Blue Jays Central?
Jamie, this Blue Jays lineup